So we have the first full moon of 2026 on January 3rd, and it's in Cancer, which means that the moon is opposing this massive pileup of planets in Capricorn. We got the sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, all of them are asking us to get serious, to get organized, to get our goals together. And I mean, we feel that, right? Like there's this pressure at the start of every year where we're supposed to have all our shit figured out, know exactly what we're building toward, be ready to hustle and produce and demonstrate that we learned something from whatever the hell just happened in 2025. But I want us to look at what's actually happening underneath all that, because I think there's something really important here that we might miss if we just rush past it. And the way I've been thinking about this full moon is like archetypal mom and dad are having a fight. In Cancer energy, she's Mama Bear, right? She's the one asking how we're actually doing, whether we've eaten, whether we're taking care of ourselves, whether the people we love feel loved by us. And Capricorn is dad. He's the one asking, what have we accomplished? What are we building? How are we going to protect what matters, whether we're being responsible and accountable and demonstrating love through our actions, of course. And the thing about these two is they're both trying to protect us, like genuinely trying to keep us safe and cared for, but they have completely different ways or ideas about what that means. Capricorn wants to build the structure, secure those resources, to put those systems in place so that nothing falls apart. And Cancer wants to make sure we're connected to our feelings, that we're not so busy building that we forget why we're building in the first place, that the container we're creating, they want to make sure that that container actually has warmth and softness in it, right? And neither of them is wrong. And I think that's what gets tricky, because we're standing in the middle of this opposition like, okay, but what am I supposed to do with this? Do I make the spreadsheet? Do I set those resolutions? Do I take that nap? Do I set ambitious goals? Or do I like cry for a minute about how hard the last year was? And then to make this even more fun, and by fun I mean complicated, we have Chiron in Aries squaring this lunation as well. Chiron, our beautiful wound that teaches us how to heal by first showing us exactly what's broken. And in Aries, that wound has to do with our right to exist, our right to take up space, our right to have boundaries and protect ourselves. It's asking, where does protection become self-preservation? Where does this is mine turn into I'm scared to share, I'm scared to be vulnerable, I'm scared that if I open up, there won't be enough? And 2025 carried this weight. And if you lived through it, I don't need to tell you, but we saw what the cost of protection looks like when it gets twisted. We saw what happens when the instinct to protect becomes about preserving the ego, preserving power, preserving my land, my rights, my place in line. We saw borders get harder and walls get higher, and people deciding that safety means keeping others out instead of making sure everyone's cared for. And look, Capricorn's call to protection is real, like deeply, deeply, deeply real. We do need structure. We do need to plan and organize and think about the future and make sure there's enough to go around. But Capricorn, at its highest octave, understands that love is a verb, It's demonstrated. It's accountable. It shows up. It's the parent who doesn't just say they care. They actually pack your lunch. They drive you to practice. They sit with you when you're scared. But when Capricorn gets overwhelmed, and right now with all these planets piled up in there, we might be feeling overwhelmed by the sheer workload of it all. When Capricorn gets overwhelmed, it can disconnect from the emotional, matriarchal softness that actually makes the work sustainable. It can turn all of this work into grinding and relentless pushing to achieve and protect and build without ever stopping to ask, who are we doing this for? What does it feel like to be on the receiving end of this protection? Are we creating something people actually want to live inside, or are we just fortifying the walls? And I think what 2025 did in all its brutal clarity is it showed us what love doesn't look like. It showed us protection without care, boundaries without compassion, structure without flexibility. It revealed the difference between I'm protecting you because I love you and I want you to thrive versus I'm protecting myself because I'm afraid of what it would mean to let you in. And Jupiter is also retrograding in Cancer right now, which feels like this big, expansive planet is going back through all the ways we've understood home and family and emotional safety and being like, wait, let me look at this again. Let me reassess what actually makes me feel held, what actually constitutes a container of care. And that's internal work, that's not about achieving or producing. That's about going back into the emotional architecture we've been living in and asking if it still fits, if it ever fit in the first place, if we need to rebuild from the bottom up again. And this full moon is in the second decan of Cancer, which is connected to the Three of Cups in the tarot. And I love this because Three of Cups is about celebration and community and raising a glass with the people who've been there with you. It's not the kind of celebration that happens at the finish line. It's the kind that happens in the middle of things. When you look around and you realize, oh, wow, we made it to this point. We're still here. We built something together, even if it was hard. And I think there's the invitation here to pause before we rush headfirst into 2026 with all our plans and lists and goals. Like, can we actually appreciate that we arrived at this place of awareness? Can we acknowledge that we survived the revelations of 2025, that we're more awake now than we were a year ago, that we know things we didn't know before about how the world works and what we're willing to tolerate and what we need in order to keep going? Because here's the thing, and I've been thinking a lot about this, 2026 is setting up to ask big things of us. We have Neptune moving into Aries for realsies this time. We have Uranus in Gemini on the horizon. We have Saturn and Neptune, which are heading toward their conjunction. Like, generationally defining transits are happening that are going to require us to show up differently, to think differently, and to participate differently in what happens next. But we can't do that work from a place of emotional depletion. We can't architect the future if we're running on fumes. We can't build containers of care if we haven't let ourselves be cared for. And the Three of Cups is reminding us that those containers already exist. The people who love us, who've shown up, who've been texting us when we're sad and bringing us soup when we're sick and letting us talk for an hour about something that probably doesn't matter that much but matters to us, they're already here and there. The community, the chosen family, the handful of people who know us and still like us. And that structure, that's already built. But we have to let ourselves be available to it, We have to actually show up to the dinners and answer the calls and say yes when someone offers help. And I know that's vulnerable. I know Capricorn wants to be like, I can do it myself. I don't need anyone. I'll just work harder and figure it out. But Cancer is standing there going, you can't actually. We need each other. Like, genuinely, you cannot do the work ahead alone. You are going to need softness and rest and people who remind you why any of this matters. So before we get into 2026 properly, before we start talking about Neptune in Aries and what it means to have our collective imagination reoriented towards courage and action and new beginnings, we have to reconnect with our emotional home. We have to get honest about what we're really doing. And I mean that both individually and collectively, because both mom and dad are here asking, how are we really doing, kiddo? Are we okay? Are we okay? Have we been taking care of what needs to be taken care of? Or have we been so busy defending and achieving and pushing through that we've lost track of whether any of this actually feels good? Capricorn's instinct is to immediately start planning, right? To make those lists and to set those goals and to figure out the action steps. And there's wisdom in that. I mean, there really is. We do need to think strategically about what we're building and why. But if we skip over the emotional clarity, if we don't first get clear about what we actually need and want and value, we end up setting goals that sound good on paper, but don't actually feed us and don't actually go anywhere. We end up working really hard toward things that were never ours to begin with. And we end up protecting structures that maybe need to fall apart. We end up so far from our emotional home. And I think that's what this full moon is illuminating for us. The gap where we are and where we think we should be, between what we're doing and what we actually need, between the life we're building and the life that would feel like home. Cancer insists that we start with care. Not care as some afterthought or not care as a reward we get once we've achieved enough, but care as a foundation, care as the thing that makes the work possible in the first place. And that includes self-care, but it also includes letting other people care for us, letting ourselves be a part of a web of mutual support instead of trying to be the one person who has it all figured out. And the most precise, most soul-fulfilling work, the work we're going to need to do as Neptune moves into Aries and Uranus moves through Cancer and all these outer planets make their slow generational shifts, the work comes from emotional clarity. It comes from knowing what we're fighting for, because we can feel it in our bodies, because we've experienced what it's like to be held, and we want that for everyone. We remember what home feels like, and we're willing to do what it takes to protect it. So this full moon on January 3rd, maybe the question isn't, what are my goals for 2026? Because let's be real, it's not the real new year. Save that for the spring equinox. Maybe the question is, how am I really? And who loves me? And do I let them? And what does home feel like in my body right now? The tasks ahead aren't going anywhere. The work of 2026, the big structural changes and the collective reckonings and all the ways we're going to be asked to grow up alongside the times, that's already coming. It's still going to be there next week and next month and next year. But we're going to meet it differently if we arrive with our emotional home intact. We're going to build different things, make different choices. We're going to show up with different energy if we've let ourselves pause here and actually feel what we've been through and truly appreciate what we've survived, to raise a glass to the people who've been with us. So take the pause if you can. Let mom ask how you're doing and give her a real answer, and let dad know you heard him about the responsibilities. You know what needs to be built, but first you need to remember why you're building it. Celebrate getting to this point of awareness, even though the awareness itself is sometimes painful. Then we keep going. We always keep going. But maybe this time we go with our hearts a little more available, a little more connected to the containers of care that have been holding us all along. Everybody say love, right? Everybody say love. All right, my loves, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you so much. If you would like your personalized reading for this lunation, check out the link in the description below. Also, I have a private membership community where you get all these readings and courses and workshops and so much more. Also linked in the description below. Take a look at it. The first week is completely free, so you can check it out, see if it works for you. Of course, no pressure. Be gentle with yourself. Be soft. Let that love pour into you because you deserve it. We all deserve love. All right? Happy New Year. Bye for now.